Morning, everybody. My name is Barry Schwartz, and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, July 1st, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com over the past week. There was another Google unconfirmed update. This was on June 27th and 28th. It seemed pretty big. I'll talk a little bit about more of that later. Danny Sullivan communicated more about how Google communicates about Google updates. We'll discuss that as well. Google has banned or prohibited rich result for products that are prohibited, regulated, or can be harmful to people. And there's so much more, so definitely stay tuned. Of course, as you can see, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Bruce Clay. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Clay is one of the founding fathers of the SEO space. He's been doing search marketing optimization since 1996. I was actually 16. Bruce Clay is big into SEO training. Check them out at seotraining.com and learn more about them at bruceclay.com. Thank you so much, Bruce, for sponsoring. So we had another Google search ranking update. This was, again, unconfirmed. This happened around June 27th and June 28th. Unknown if it's actually related to the previous core update, if these are called tremors or whatever to that update. But we've definitely seen a lot of tremors after that May 2022 core update. Again, June 23rd, June 19th, June 20th. And then we saw stuff before the May core update and during the May core update. So a lot of things going on. Definitely lots of signals of a big update around that time. And all the tools in the chatter are showing so. So hopefully you guys, fared well with that. Again, nothing confirmed from Google on that. It is what it is. This past week, I went to the Google office for the first time in like 2.5 years, and like pre-COVID, and we had an SEO meetup at the Google office in New York City, actually in the Chelsea office across the street, which Google owns or leases a lot of those offices. A bunch of Googlers were there, including Danny Sullivan and Daniel Weisberg. Daniel Weisberg actually organized it. Danny Sullivan gave a talk there, and a bunch of other SEOs were there, about 50 or so. Danny Sullivan gave a presentation, so basically summarizing his blog post about why Google does updates and how often and how the Google communicates about those updates. And again, he reiterated again that Google is sharing more about updates. It's not that Google's necessarily doing more updates, but Google's sharing more about their updates. Now, Google is doing more updates. Google has confirmed that based on their blog posts in the past, basically saying in 2021 they did 5,000 updates, in 2020 they did 4,500 updates, and then the year before that and the year before that they did about 3,200 updates. Of course, not all those updates are algorithmic updates. They're probably like UI updates and so forth, but Google is doing more updates and Google is communicating more about those updates. So that's what Danny Sullivan's saying, and he said that at that SEO meetup. Now, if you want to see the SEO meetup and what it was talked about, we can share the actual thing, but I did a cute little video. I'll include it as a thumbnail at the end of this video, so stay through the end of the video. You'll be able to click on that video and check out that. It's a pretty cute video. Hopefully you'll like it. Let me know your feedback and comment on that video and comment on this video. And of course, please subscribe, like, and share the video with your friends because, I don't know, Google Search Central blog or YouTube channel received over 500,000 subscribers. And I'm at 14,000 subscribers. I don't know how to get close to that number. I just don't know what to do, and I guess I'm just boring. So anyway, definitely subscribe if you haven't, and tell your friends to subscribe. I'm trying to get to at least 100,000, but at this rate, it's going to take me about 25 years. Anyway, let's keep moving. Google has released a new guideline around rich results for products, basically saying that if you have prohibited, regulated, or products that like inflict self-harm or harm to others, Google's going to go ahead and disallow it. This includes firearms like guns, fireworks potentially, certain types of recreational drugs, and so on. So these types of product categories, automatically Google's going to no longer show rich results, stars, availability, pricing, and stuff like that for those products in the Google search results for rich results going forward. There's no manual action. Google's saying you should remove the rich results markup schema from your pages, but there will be no action because Google's just going to automatically not show it anyway. So don't expect to get a Search Console manual action. Google won't go ahead and do that. Google has clarified the 15 megabyte Googlebot limit for crawling and indexing, basically saying that Google will, it's 15 megabytes is huge. A lot of people, to my surprise, were like, oh my God, Google's bot is only crawling up to 15 megabytes on my page. I have videos, I have images, they're all massive. How is Google going to index that stuff? And Google just looks at the HTML. Don't worry about the external files. Those are separate. Google will crawl it. And Gary did a nice blog post at the Google blog, And John Mueller basically summed it up also on Twitter. So I have that in here. If you are confused by it, definitely take a look at that link, and hopefully you'll learn more about that over there. Google has updated its crawl stats report help documentation. A number of changes there. Brody Clark went ahead and documented those changes. In short, there's a note about robots.txt 404ing. They can crawl any URL. They're using a 12-hour and 30-day time frame for fetching, and there's also details about homepage users. So definitely take a look at that comparison. Brody Clark did a nice job summing that up. Google's Alan Kent did a video on SEO e-commerce tips. He gave basically 8 SEO e-commerce tips. Nothing groundbreaking, but basically the summary is do the technical SEO basics, make sure your content's great, mark up your products, make sure you handle the product variants properly, make sure your deal URLs or sales URLs are consistent and not new, keep them permanent. So if you have a Mother's Day every single year, keep it the same Mother's Day URL, don't change it Mother's Day 2022, Mother's Day 2023, keep it the same URL. Make sure your site's fast, be patient, things take time to improve. And if you are failing over and over again, ask experts, SEO experts for help. And finally, make sure your website's good for users, and that's the most important thing, that's his tip. So definitely take a look at that video if you're interested in more details. Google also has explained how you could go ahead and use JavaScript to inject canonical link tags onto your site. So Google historically said it does work, but there could be complications with it. And Google, again, in this documentation says and warns against using it. It says, we don't recommend you use JavaScript to embed or to inject your canonical URLs, but if you have to, Google then gave specific guidelines on how you could actually do that in these help documents. So definitely take a look at that. Just a reminder, and this is interesting, all of a sudden, in the past couple of weeks, people were talking about the supplemental index and how Google has a supplemental index and you have to worry about it. Yes, Google had historically a supplemental index. Google stopped technically using it and displaying it in 2007. That's a long time ago. And then in 2010, when Google released their new indexing system called Caffeine, again, 2010, so that's like 12 years ago, Google completely stopped using the supplemental index. So stop talking about the supplemental index. It's not relevant at all. It's 12 years plus irrelevant. There is no such thing. This is my PSA. Google has added an interesting new search results snippet. People are saying it's not new, but I believe it is new. It basically shows pros and cons added to the snippet. And even though the website doesn't actually say pros and cons, it does list the pros and cons without saying these are pros and without saying these are cons. So Google's making these snippets and automatically saying they're pros and cons. Google's top stories has added some new interesting stuff for desktop search. So now the top stories is basically categorized by topics depending on the query. So if you search for Biden, it might show you today information about abortion and their US military step up in Russia, or Europe, based on Russia, what's going on in Russia. It seems like that's new. Shalom Goodman actually covered that. Google is testing local expandable carousels with snippets. So this is pretty cool. We saw a lot of this local stuff and expandable widgets happening. This actually was spotted by Carousel, who basically showed weather, hotels, restaurants, visual stories, events, and more. So definitely take a look at this GIF of this in action. It's pretty interesting how Google's using these expandable elements to go ahead and show more local results in the Google search results. Google also is testing, or actually launched, knowledge panels for automobiles, like cars and vehicles, that will highlight in green any car that's available in electric format as well as available in hybrid format. And those will be marked as green. This is spotted by Melissa Fack. Google Maps is testing a new local panel with images at the top with tab reviews. So this is pretty interesting as well. You can see a screenshot of that is here as well. Google also is testing search find places through reviews. So we've seen this before with Google lets you search, Google search is letting you find places through photos. Now Google's letting you find places through reviews. Bing is testing a feature which shows you like a snippet of the search result, and this says click to see full answer. This seems super spammy to me. I'm surprised Bing is doing this. Why would somebody want to do a search and then have to click again just to reveal the answer? It reminds me of one of those websites that kind of like makes you do multiple clicks just to get to it, just to annoy you, to generate more clicks. I'm not sure why Bing would do that. I'm not sure if there's some type of malware or something from people, but multiple people saw that. So I'm wondering if it's some type of extension, but it seems like it's legit. I'm not sure. And also Bing is testing a feature to expand the feature snippets to be way more like crazy knowledgeable. It's like a really featured knowledgeable snippet. It's basically called From This Page, and it kind of breaks up the content from that page to show you segments of that page with answers. It's like Q&A based on there being no Q&A on the page, but showing you Q&A for that featured on that page. That was spotted by Frank Sandman from German-based SEO. This is a weird one. Bing is testing a autocomplete feature that says tab. Here's a screenshot of it. It basically is communicating to the searcher that they can just press tab to automatically complete it. But I'm like trying to click on it on the tab. It's very super confusing. I'm not sure why Bing would do this, but that again was spotted by Carousel. Google is automatically selecting background colors for search result snippet images. Super interesting. This is spotted by Pundit. And then also Google Shopping Ads Carousel is testing shading the background colors by different shades that are not used in the actual images. Again, these images, both of these, are not the background colors from the website. They're from other websites. And this specific shopping one was spotted by SAD-AK. Google Shopping is also testing a retail or merchant brand slider feature, which actually, as you slide through the products, it tells you which merchant or retailer that's from. That was spotted by Carousel as well. He's spotting a lot of things. And Google Shopping has launched, I think this happened a few months ago. I'm not exactly sure when. I think probably sometime in March or April of this year, where you could actually go ahead and filter the search results by Black-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, and Latino-owned businesses in this Discover box. Here's a screenshot of that as well. And again, I believe this feature launched around March when Google also released the ability to filter by smaller stores. Google has announced they are going to be paying Wikipedia for their knowledge panels. So any content or some of the content that Google repurposes from Wikipedia, Google will actually pay the Wikipedia Enterprise Foundation for it. I'm not sure how much, but that's nice to hear. And like I said, I was at the Google New York City SEO Meetup. Daniel Weisberg and Danny Sullivan, Glenn Gabe, Romaine, Lily Ray, and a bunch of SEOs I met up with there. It was the first SEO meetup I've done in person. If you click on that video thumbnail at the end, you will be able to see that little video vloggy thing I made. Hopefully you like it. And again, please, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. Feel free to comment below with what you want to see more or less of. In any event, thank you so much for listening. Everyone have a great weekend. Have a great July 4th, for those who are in America. Be safe, be healthy, and I'll see you guys next week. Again, that's the search news we covered over the Search Engine Roundtable, SEOroundtable.com over the past week. My name again is Barry Schwartz, and today is July 1st. Thank you, Bruce Smith, for sponsoring. Be well. Bye-bye.